Yeah, but
you're assuming that a 35-year-old that's single would be what you think you would be as a 35-year-old single woman.
If I was not a successful woman like the one that you were mentioning before.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, there's no way to tell really if somebody's successful or not,
whenever we talk about
successful.
like feeling successful, and the reason I say desperate is because it is 1000% tied to our ego. It's 1000% tied to like where we are getting our validation from.
Right, but now everything that you're saying is tied to your ego. What if a woman doesn't have that kind of ego? What if a woman's like, my ego isn't tied to any of that?
Then nothing about what she's doing would scream desperate, and more than likely she wouldn't be doing that. She wouldn't be like
right, but what if that's just her character? What if there's women that are very forward?
Yes, but there's a difference between being forward and being desperate.
I know, I 100% agree.
Being forward, you could buy a guy a drink and be like, I'm just buying you a drink. Hi,
right,
what's your name?
But if a girl buys a guy a drink, is that not desperate to you?
It's depending on the situation. If you are talking to this person and you have been having a conversation with them and you're like, let me buy you a drink. Okay. Buy me a drink.
Sure.
Okay. All right. But the guy and her are now having this decorum and this like vibe, right? Mm-hmm. And you are vibing with the person clearly. And even if you don't, if nothing comes out of it, you're the entire time, if you've been very like very natural flowing, not necessarily trying to be extra flirtatious with them. Yeah. That's fine. Now, if you put that situation and the girl is buying a guy a drink and the guy is not interested and or the guy is, giving off some other vibe. Right. Then at that point, if the girl's not getting the hint same way as a guy, it screams desperate. And the reason why I felt like the girl who was being at the bar was desperate was because it's like, sweetie, you can't do that with somebody who doesn't have the option of walking away from you. So
sure, I understand that argument.
So to me, when I think of girls being overtly desperate is because of the fact that they're not catching the hints that like, it's again, the same way that if a guy was being desperate with a girl and being like, hey, yo, homie, like you're not catching the hint that she don't like you. Like,
right. Like, however, yesterday he did like her.
Sure.
But doesn't that negate what you're saying about her being desperate?
No, because she's doing it at his job. Like if I'm telling you, again, if it wasn't for the fact that he was working, I wouldn't be thinking that she was being desperate. I would just be thinking like, good job, girl, play your moves. But like, but it's just the fact that she was doing it while he was working. It's like, girl, don't do that. Like that is the only reason why it screamed desperate.
That made
it to me like, girl.
That clearly bugs you. And you're giving a lot of examples of situations of women being desperate, but
it's a tentative on the situation, but yes.
But I still haven't gotten a situation where a woman, or a clear descriptive situation where a woman is of that age, which I don't even know why the age matters, to be honest with you, because it really doesn't matter to me. But
I think it's more because I think it has a lot more to do with the social construct that like when you are that much older, you should already have a partner. So
that's all the intuition pumping.
No, but that has to do, and I don't know how this works for men because men are very different when it comes down to age and dating. Yeah. But that's not how it is for women. And so when women think about it, no matter how independent, how soul searching person you've done and like you found everything you needed or whatever, there is the social construct that has always been put on women. That's like, hey, yo, if you're this old, and whether or not you like it or not, most of us have thought and or think, damn, like, what if I am going to be 35 and single? Like, I'm not saying.
Why does that matter?
Because nobody puts pressure on that for y'all.
Yes, they do. There's a lot of pressure on men to have a girl, to have a pretty girl, to have have babies. There's a lot of pressure.
But whenever y'all reach a certain age, it no longer becomes you should be tied down by this point. It's you guys kind of transition into.
I can give you plenty stereotypes of men that are in their 30s or 40s where society would look at that person bad because they don't have any of those things. Yeah. The whole reason why you can't have a single president in the United States is because the ideology of them having a family makes for better candidacy. So
that's understandable,
right?
But what I'm saying is, like
societal pressures are there for men.
Societal,
also.
Yeah, but if you want to be a president, my dude, like if you're looking at that, more often than not, you think of The Bachelor, the eligible bachelor, and this and that, and you're talking about men who could be single at 35, at 40, and still find themselves a young honey because that's socially acceptable.
Right.
But you can't. A woman being 40 years old, not only does that make it harder for men her age to like her, apparently, but
I disagree.
You disagree with that because you are one of those people who doesn't look at it that way. But a lot of the times in society, when you think of a woman that's 40 years old,
I think a woman that's 40 years old meeting another 40-year-old single guy is probably more likely for them to be compatible because that 40-year-old guy is probably a lot more mature, does not have a 24-year-old mind, is not thinking about.
A lot of the arguments that women use is just like, oh, I'm 40. How likely is it actually for me to find somebody my age that thinks like that?
It's as likely as you'd like it to be, depending on where you put yourself.
Because all of them are gay. Because it's like I'm not trying to dismiss or make it seem like it's not possible or like that's not ideal what you're saying. Mm-hmm. In a perfect world, there is no prejudice against that. But as a woman, we've gotten that prejudice regardless. Like
right now you're putting it on yourself. Right now,
speaking for
can't we have in my mind,
because you can't speak for all men.
I can't.
These thoughts that you're having, you're like, yeah, but that doesn't make sense because you think that way.
I'm not the one making these assertions. You're saying that men in their 35s are eligible bachelor. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there are stereotypes of like the man that lives in his mom's basement or the gamer man that's like a man child.
You specifically wouldn't find a woman in her 40s uneligible.
I'm saying, I'm not speaking of any specific situations. I'm talking about the absolutes. I don't think it's necessary at this point in society. If we have a choice to talk about these things in the way that we would like for them to be, I don't think the age of a woman being single is absolutely necessary in and of the slightest. If you're talking about women in terms of their biological clock or their terms of babies and their own internal struggle with that, I can't refute that and I can't speak to that because that is a plight that only belongs to you guys and is subjective per person. It's case by case and depending on how you guys view yourselves in the world. But in terms of eligibility, in terms of partnership, in terms of love, in terms of all of these things, I refuse to talk about single women as a 35-year-old as age being a factor in whether she can or can't be that, or whether she's desperate or not desperate, because in my mind her age is really irrelevant. I understand your mind,
but you can't be all men.
Right, I'm not saying all men.
Yeah, but whenever we talk about whether or not I think that, you are saying that because you don't think that, you don't understand why I would think that.
No, I'm saying that you claiming that women in those situations would be desperate is a very specific assertion about you assuming that 35-year-old women are like that. And I'm saying don't assume that a 35-year-old woman is in that situation or in another situation. Just think about her like a regular single person that is allowed to do what any other single person thing, and that they can maneuver their way through their singlehood in whatever way that they wish, because they can, because they have the ability to, because they have the option to. What I'm saying
is don't assume that age isn't a factor, because you are now assuming that doesn't actually exist. You're assuming that there isn't a wide variety and a wide range of women out there who actually take that into consideration, who actually feel ways about that, who do actually feel like, oh shit, now this is becoming that.
And your argument was that society puts that on you. Right?
Yes.
Society. So why not in this moment take the opportunity to fight against that and speak into existence a version where maybe a woman let's say a 35-year-old woman is watching this and may say, oh my God, society wants me to be this. Why not be the voice in this case, in this scenario of it doesn't have to be that way. Society is wrong. Society is wrong. You being 35 years old and a single woman does not make you any less valuable, any less society is flat out wrong in that situation. Society does put that on you guys, on women. 100% it does. I'm not arguing that because there's a lot of baggage that comes with that stuff. But here, in this moment, we have the opportunity to say, society is wrong. You shouldn't feel that way. It's gonna take a long time for you to feel that way. Now you're having a
totally different conversation.
I know, but that's why I'm asking, because whenever we started having this conversation, and you're saying things like, "Oh, it was just the vibe. The vibe of the girl was given that," and then also like, "Girl, like, look at your age." I'm like, no. Why is that even a factor? Right? We have the opportunity right now to just think about this woman as like a regular person, and where we can dissolve that from a societal standard.
That's the thing. That is you being very ideal about shit that isn't actually real. And second of all, it is a factor. The fact that she was older and the fact that she does that is because more often than not, if you are an older woman and you are working on those preconceived notions that age is actually something important in your ability to be attractive to somebody, then you are going to work under that notion. And whether or not you like to believe it or not, whether or not you would find a problem with it or not, has nothing to do with the way that person is going to act about it.
100%. And she was not. For the record, she was not acting like she was at all behooved by any of those societal expectations.